All right, y'all, welcome to another episode of Soul Care Conversations with Jess. I am your host, Jessica. I am She Speaks Truth, all of it. I hope that you enjoyed our last episode as we talked about fruitful connections. I'm going to link it somewhere here so you can go and watch it if you haven't watched it already. And if you haven't shared it, please don't forget to share. But today I want us to talk about signs of healthy connections, right? Or healthy community connections more specifically. I think it's important to be able to define that and know what that means, because sometimes we really truly don't know what healthy community looks like. And so I really want us to break that down and journey through that together. So we're gonna jump into, I think there's like 4 or 5 of them. So I have my iPad. I'm likely gonna have my iPad because it helps me to just stay on track, because sis can talk. So I am going to just have them here, and there's some specific things that I want to share. So let's jump into it. Okay, so what are some signs of healthy community connections? The first one that I think is important is that you feel seen and you feel safe and you feel validated in your community spaces. And of course, this is within the context of like your close friends and people that you spend the most time with. Like, do you feel safe and seen and validated in your community, right? I think that's so important because sometimes and I've had this experience where it can feel like you are invisible in your community or amongst people who are supposed to be your friends. You feel unsafe. You don't feel safe to be vulnerable or to share things. It just doesn't feel right. You don't feel like you can just settle and you can be yourself. You have to be able to be yourself when you are amongst your friends. If you can't be yourself amongst your friends, then who can you really be yourself with? Let your hair down, take your wig off, all of the different types of things. I think it's really, really important to be able to be yourself. But think about it. Like, do I feel safe and do I feel seen and validated? Like, when I share something with my friends, do I feel validated around those things, right? Do they validate my feelings, or do they just like shove it to the side because it's not important to them? And so and that's the aspect of validation, right? So it's even though it may not be necessarily important to that person, it's important to you, and so they're validating. And also the aspect of acknowledging. Do you feel acknowledged in your relationships or in your connections in your community, right? And why that is important, there's this he's a researcher of some sort, and he's a leading psychotherapist, and his name is Peter Levine. And he talks about the aspect of like having an empathetic witness. And I love that language because sometimes you just need somebody to hold space for you. You don't necessarily need them to give you advice, or you don't necessarily need their perspective right there and then, but you just want to feel seen. Like, I feel seen. I felt seen. Like, I see you. I hear you, right? And how do you do that for your community as well? So not just the fact that they do it for you, but do you do it for them? So do people feel safe around you? Are you a safe space, right? And this is important. This is important for your nervous system. It is very important for your nervous system, right? To feel safe, the aspect of emotional safety is so important and so underrated, right? Because it doesn't have your nervous system dysregulated and all over the place, but you feel regulated, you feel calm, you feel grounded, you feel at ease, you feel at peace, right? In these contexts of like feeling seen and validated and heard by your community. So this is a sign. This right here is a sign or a fruitful connections we talked about in the last episode of healthy community, right? Healthy community connections. Do you feel seen? Do you feel heard? Do you feel validated? The next one is it is reciprocal and you can be your authentic self. The aspect of this mic, just stop moving. The aspect of reciprocity in relationships is so, I think it's also, that's another thing that's also underrated. Like, you rub my back, I rub your back. Like, and it can feel sometimes like, you're showing up for this person, you're doing this, and they're not doing it for you. And that sucks. That's not fun. I don't like that, right? Or it seems like I'm putting out, I'm doing, and there's just no reciprocity. And that is a sign of unhealthy relationship. I do want to say this though, that sometimes there are seasons to reciprocity. That's good. That's good. Because there's some seasons I know I've had where I didn't have anything to give. Like, I was like, don't count on me to be reciprocal right now, because I don't have it. And so there are seasons where reciprocity won't be able to happen. It won't be able to happen. And I think it's important to acknowledge that. But if it's a continual cycle of a lack of reciprocity, that is a sign of an unhealthy connection, unhealthy relationship. It's not healthy. It's giving 0 out of 10 recommend. No, don't do it. It's run. Do not pass go. Just keep going, right? Relationships are supposed to be reciprocal, right? It's important. It's a part of humanity, right? That we want for people to show up and to do for us like we would do for them. And so I'm always going to flip it on its head. How do you show up for your friends? Do you show up the same way that they show up for you, right? So that's also important to evaluate. How are you showing up for your people, and what does that look like? And another aspect is being able to be your authentic self. If you can't be yourself around your friends, then like, who can you be yourself around? I don't know if I said this in this episode or the last episode. I really don't remember. But if you can't be yourself around your friends, then like, who can you be yourself around? You'd be able to just laugh without reserve and like, just be like, we have to put on, especially as Black women, we have to put on in so many different contexts. And so having healthy community where you can just be is so life-giving. It's so it just makes you like just sit back. It makes you drop your shoulders. You don't have to pretend. I mean, we're never supposed to pretend, but you know what I mean? Like, we're in different contexts. Sometimes we gotta code switch. Let's be real. When you're with your friends, you shouldn't have to code switch or any of those things. You should be able to be your authentic, most vulnerable and transparent self, because it's healthy. If you're always constantly putting on, I remember I was going through a season of depression, and it was one of the most lowest seasons. I don't even know if that's grammatically correct, but it was one of the lowest seasons I have ever gone through. And I remember sharing this voice note in my group chat with my friends, and just, I was so raw and so vulnerable. I was like, guys, I am struggling. I am having a really, really hard time. I'm having a difficult time. Can you help me? I am sad and I don't know how to get through this. And my friends rallied around me and loved on me. Most recently, if you don't know, now you know, I have a baby. And she's 8 months, and not me getting emotional. Okay. And I transitioned back to work, and I think that I underestimated the transition back to work. And so I was having a really, really hard time. Like, I was experiencing some really overwhelming feelings, and I was just like, man, like, I'm having really good days, but I'm having some really, really hard days, because this is harder than I thought it would be. And I was able to text my friends and be like, hey, I'm experiencing some really overwhelming feelings right now, and I just wanted to share that with you as a source or as a piece of accountability, because I'm having a really, really hard time right now. And my friends, once again, loved on me, encouraged me. I'm here if you need me. One of my friends was like, you're going to find pace in Jesus' name. And I was also able to connect with my therapist, who's also a fruitful connection, right? And so being able to have spaces that you could just be yourself and just breathe and just let it all down and let it all go, and you could laugh and have black girl or black boy joy, or it's so important. And so my heart is that if you don't have spaces like that, that you will be able, that the Lord will connect you to spaces and people like that, because it's so underrated and so important. Okay, the next one is a sign of healthy community is that you can implement boundaries. If you are in relationship, whether platonic or romantic, any context, and you cannot implement healthy boundaries, run. It's not healthy. If people don't respect your boundaries, run. You also need to respect people's boundaries, right? If you are not able to implement healthy boundaries within your community context, it's not healthy. It's giving toxic. If people are pushing back on your boundaries or different, it's giving toxic. It really, really is. And when I say boundaries, I wanna talk about the fact, because our generation is very mental health heavy, and we romanticize mental health and therapy. I'm gonna do something on that. But there's a difference between a boundary and a wall, right? A boundary is adjustable. You can move the boundary. A boundary, I like to liken it onto like a fence or a door. With the door, you can open the door, you can close the door, you can crack the door. There's a level of movement and adjustment. With a fence, the fence can be high, the fence can be low, the fence can be medium. You can look over the fence, you can adjust the fence. You know what I mean? But you have control over that, right? So that's a healthy approach of a boundary. However, the aspect of a wall is very, very different. A wall is pretty much impenetrable, unless like you take a bulldozer and like you push it over or something like that. That is not a wall. That is not a boundary. That is a wall. There's a difference between a boundary and a wall. So make sure that your boundaries are healthy and they're not unhealthy, right? So that's important. But if there are people who are your friends and in your community that are pushing up against your boundaries, that's not healthy. It's giving toxic. It's giving needing to prune. Like, seriously, if you are in a healthy relationship, if you say, hey, I need some time, or if you say, hey, so, okay, let's do this. What's an example of a healthy boundary? Okay, an example of a healthy boundary is, hey, I didn't like that you spoke to me in that way. That didn't make me feel good, that you spoke to me in that way. Also, the way you communicate your boundaries is important, right? Because what I just did, and I didn't like the way you talked to me, that's not it. That's not it. The way you communicate your boundaries are really, really important, because it's also going to impact the way it's received. More times, not all the time. For some people, it doesn't matter how you say it. They're going to do what they do and say what they say, right? And so communicating your boundaries. Yes, let's give an example of the boundary. Or, hey, I'm having this event. Maybe you have a friend who's always late. I'm having this event, and I would really appreciate it that you show up on time, because it's important to me that you show up on time. As I said, I didn't like that you spoke to me in this way. Setting those healthy boundaries. If your friend's like, I actually don't care, I'm just going to show up at any time, that's not healthy. That's not a healthy boundary. That shows that this person doesn't respect you as a person. They don't respect your time. And that's big for me. Ooh, wait. Respect my time. Respect my time. Respect. Time is a big thing for me, and I don't have a lot of it, and I don't like when people waste my time. So when I have friends who don't respect my time, actually I don't have any friends like that, because we set the boundary, right? Another thing, another thing around boundaries is we need to normalize asking people if they have capacity, right? The aspect of like emotionally dumping on people is it's not okay. So as much as we want to feel seen and safe and validated, it's okay to ask questions. Hey, I'm in a really rough place right now. Do you have capacity for this? Right? Do you have capacity for me to share this with you right now? I have a friend, her and I, one of my best friends, whenever we want to talk about something specific, I'm always like, hey girl, do you have capacity for this? And she does the same. And it's so healthy. I even ask my friends if they have capacity to do some of the things that they're doing, right? So what I'm saying here is it's important to ask, it's important to know if you are able to set healthy boundaries. That's a really important sign of healthy relationship. This is good. Your community consists of a healthy balance of friends and mentors. That's an underrated aspect of community that's talked about. Mentorship. You need to be, everybody can't be where you're at. It's just not. No, there has to be some aspect of aspiring to grow, to evolve, to develop, right? So there needs to be a healthy balance of your friends and your mentors, where you know you can go to this person for wise counsel, right? You can go to them for godly advice. You can go to them to be poured into. You can go to just listen and to receive and to be poured into. Healthy community, a sign of healthy community is a balance between mentors and friends. You need people that are older than you and wiser than you, that are able to pour into you, people that are going where you want to go, people that can see things that you can't see. Listen, I really, really love the book of Proverbs. The book of Proverbs. And why I love the book of Proverbs, it talks so much about the aspect of wisdom. And we need in Proverbs, it talks about the aspect of wise counsel. And we need to have wise counsel in our lives. Sometimes our friend groups can provide that wise counsel, but sometimes they can't, because sometimes we all in it together. We're at similar seasons of life, similar stages of life. I will go to my friends for counsel. Yes, hey, what do you think about this, to get a different perspective or something like that. And my friends are really, really good at that. But I also go to my mentors. Hey, like, what are your thoughts on this? Because there's a different level of wisdom when somebody is in something and when somebody has navigated through something, right? There is beauty in hindsight, right? So you're able now to receive wisdom from somebody who has journeyed through what you've journeyed through. And so they're able to add a different layer of wisdom and accountability to your life. So a sign of healthy community is a balance between friends and mentors. Lastly, your community aligns with your values. That is also really, really important. They align with your values. What does this mean? Values of respect. So you may not share all of the same values, right? But there's some level of alignment, right? So respect. If respect is not a value of your community, then there's going to be some type of clash there, right? If boundaries isn't a value of your community, then there is going to be a clash there, right? Think about the different aspects of your values. Maybe some of you don't even know what your values are, and how do you find them? So what are the things that are important to you? Time is important to me, like I said before. So time is of value for me. me. My spiritual life, my relationship with God is a value for me. Spending time with my community, spending time with my friends. So if that's not a value for my friends and I want to spend time with them and they're just like, I don't really want to, there's going to be a clash there, right? So your community should be able to align with your values and with the things that are important to you, because it's important to you, right? And vice versa. All right. So I hope this was helpful in aspects of being able to really determine and detect some signs of thriving and healthy and fruitful community, because it's important, man. It's important to our mental and emotional health. And Proverbs 27:17, and if you haven't watched the video on the 5 soul care pillars, you can go ahead and watch that. But Proverbs 27:17 says iron sharpens iron, and in one version it says one person sharpens the character of another. And so if you are somebody who's on a journey of your character being sharpened and you want to evolve and you want to grow, it's important that the people that are around you are doing that, and vice versa. How are you sharpening the people that are around you? How are you helping people around you to level up, right? So I pray that this was a blessing for you, and you had different things to take away and to apply. I love you guys so much, and please don't forget to share this podcast with somebody. We all about having those healthy conversations around life and mental health and emotional health. That is what Soul Care Conversations is all about. And don't forget to leave your comments too. I'd love to hear, what's resonating with you, what you're going to apply to your life and all that kind of stuff, or what you've already been applying. And maybe for some of you, this is like, this is validation and this is confirmation of some of the things we've already been doing. All right. Love you guys. Bye.